framework, right? There is a costing section on that,
Yeah.
within on-premises. Yeah, maybe you can just search it for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
we
the
should.
costing framework and the reference framework, those are the ones which I'll just post. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I think others 10:36. We just because a lot
I
of
think we
people
can
are there.
start. So normally we have like 35 people. Today 10 is less, maybe because the weather is good or something. But let's get started, I think, which is okay.
Okay. Do you want to kick start, or what do you like? How do you want to go about it?
No, just go straight.
Okay.
Krishna, floor is to you.
Okay. Thank you all again for joining another session of the Azure Fundamentals. The more I do, it feels like more deep dive, but that's okay because at the end of the day, the type of the sessions hopefully would get you more interested on Azure and also get you more details on it. So today is the fifth week. It's been the last 4 weeks we've covered the basic concepts of the cloud, and we covered AKS. For AKS, one of the plan is to have a deep dive, a specialist on AKS. I'm working with somebody to do that. And we also looked at Azure DNS and private DNS and Azure Load Balancer over the last week. And this week is about application gateway. So I also want to give you guys a view on what's going to come in the next sessions. So these are the additional sections I'm planning to cover. It's like if you look at it in the next coming weeks, I want to go deep dive into the storage. Storage is composed of blob, disk storage, file storage, archive storage, and also we have partners like NetApps, which host their storage system on cloud. I might bring one of the architects working on NetApp to talk about how the NetApp file systems work on Azure. And we will go deep dive into the types of databases because one of the advantages of going into the cloud world is the choices of databases is extensive. We have Cosmos DB, which is NoSQL type databases. We have traditional databases like Azure SQL, except the name, Azure the SQL, pretty much is a modern cloud-based database built from scratch. We also look at MySQL, which is used to be open source and it's hosted as a service. Postgres, and also migrating your on-premises data into Azure. And we also take a look at marketplace reviews because Azure, if you think about Azure, it's an ecosystem. The ecosystem, in my view, is composed of two key components. One is the components that are produced and created by Microsoft from scratch. And there's also a lot of third-party companies which are basically hosting the applications and the products on Azure. For example, load balancers from F5s, WAFs from F5, Barracuda, Palo Alto. There are tons and tons of third-party applications that actually Azure is a marketplace for building and hosting third-party applications. And I also want to touch base on the IoT. IoT space is going to get more and more, I would say, entrenched in our daily lives because of the COVID and all the things as 5G. It's very close. You're going to see more IoT type workloads that will be hosted on the cloud. On the topic, Microsoft acquired MetaSwitch few days ago, and also we have acquired a company called Affirm, which is the API, which is like the enhanced packet core network. So these are 5G technologies that are going to come. It's already there. And we're also introducing concepts like Azure Private Edge Zones. So basically, think about Azure Private Edge Zones are your, how we have Wi-Fi now, where you're connected to a telco tower. Imagine within a vicinity, you're going to have a smaller footprint of the entire tower into a software that we call private edge zones. So there's a whole new things are coming in. That's a very interesting topic. I want to share some things on it, and also obviously big data analytics. Again, we're going to generate lots and lots of data. Where are you going to process potentially in the cloud, right? So I'm going to talk about that. And the last one, I'll finish with the AI and machine learning modules. So this is the glimpse of what I'm going to talk about. And maybe I'll finish that with the serverless computing, which is basically the new way of hosting applications on the cloud. DevOps, which is a very important topic. So you have all this nice piece of software. How are you going to connect? How are you going to make it work? How do you make it productionize it? How do you automate the end-to-end life cycle of the deployments? So we're going to talk about that. And the last one we finish with the Azure Advisor Security and RBAC. And so I might do 1 or 2 on a week depending on the schedule. But this is going to be the full on. So even though it's fundamentals, it's going to be going deep dive. So yeah. Any questions, please type it on the chat window. I'll make sure I answer the questions before I finish for the day. I think last week we looked at this is one of the 2 services. One is the load balancer, which is a layer 4 internal facing or even public facing type load balancer, which takes care of TCP, UDP, HTTP, and HTTPS type traffic. And we also looked at different types of load balancers, the public and internal. This type of queues and backend pools, and we also looked at health probes. So this week is going to be a very interesting topic, application gateways. So if you think about what is an application gateway, it falls in the category of layer 7. So when you call layer 7, it is capable of handling HTTP and HTTPS type request. So which means predominantly your web traffic. So why that is important is traditionally when enterprises were building applications internally, there was no need to have this sort of application load balancers. But as and when companies expose their websites and their services on the cloud, the language. Yes, I'll show the demo of the load balancer once okay, I'll do that. So coming back to this, so if your customers would be hosted using you might host a website, and the customers are coming through that website. In that scenario, what could happen is the traffic has to be received and then processed and then distributed underneath the web service, right? For example, so in that case, the layer 7 becomes a key solution on the whole thing. First and foremost is security and compliance in the cloud, because as you know, in the cloud there are various types of security challenges application would be encountering. It could be from spoof attacks, from bots, the whole lot of things. And also the concept of application gateway also gets you 2 things. One is splitting your domain into 2 pieces. One is an external facing part and internal facing part. The application load balancer resides within the external facing part, where you can get the information, process it securely, and then push the data back into the on-prem. And the last one is that a lot of emerging scenarios that are coming through, which is going to make it more and more meaningful. For example, still a few years ago, we didn't have the concept of bots. So now there are millions of bots. So how do you going to handle that as well? If you look at what is an application gateway in a nutshell, in summary, it's a HTTPS type load balancer. It enables you to manage traffic to your web application specifically. Some might ask, why I can't use load balancers? You can, but it doesn't have the capabilities and functionality of a layer 7 load balancer. So traditional load balancers tend to operate with a source IP. We saw the 5 tuples, where you have a source IP that is mapped to a destination IP and a port, but the browser traffic, the way browser traffic is very different. If you type in, say www.google.com, or if you type in microsoft.com/learning, so there's a whole bunch of URL syntax has to be processed, and also application security has to be applied for it to work. So I'll quickly go into how does an application load balancer process a request. So the users, for example, the users will be connecting to your enterprise using a public IP. Okay, so we call them as a front-end IP, or sometimes they'll type in a fully qualified domain name. And it's a fully qualified domain name. It could be something like www.something.com or flipkart.com or something like that. We call it a fully qualified domain name. So what happens when you do that? There is a listener, which is basically listens to that request. So the purpose of the listener is to receive the request, and then once it receives a request, there will be rule engine which sits behind that listener. The purpose of the rule engine is to a couple of things, okay? Is to understand the type of traffic, and also once you understand the type of traffic, it basically checks other things like what type of web pages it is, where is the location of the web pages, whether it's got some encryption on it, whether it's got some security aspects of it. The whole bunch of rules goes into the rule engine. Once it processes that rules, it will route that request to the underlying, so you can see servers. Okay. So one key aspect you need to understand is using the application gateway, the backend pool can be of any one or more of these types. For example, it could be a virtual machine that can be sitting within Azure, or it could be sitting within within a backend enterprise. So it can also be a virtual machine scale sets. So think about virtual machine scale sets are basically you can scale out traditional virtual machine, and then basically virtual machines becomes like a stateless service where it can automatically scale up and scale down. That's a new type of service. And I'll also talked about on-premises external app service. For example, a lot of companies have an existing web server which are sitting behind their firewall, which is sitting behind their data centers. Using application gateway, you can route a traffic from an external site and on to your on-premises one. You might wonder why you do that. Most of the time when enterprises are moving towards the cloud, the first piece, they will always start with the I would call them the easier components to move. Application load balancer, the front-facing application load balancer tend to be one of those components where they tend to replace first. And then they'll look at the backend application there. And we also have a service called Azure App Services. The Azure App Services are basically a PaaS-based application servers, which basically host any type of application. It could be an API endpoint, it could be HTTP type application. It doesn't matter what type of application it is, so you can use that. And also, you start to see application load balancer can also be used with AKS, which is the Kubernetes service as well. So there are times when, let me forward. You know what? Okay, when do I use application gateway? If you think about Azure ecosystem, there are multiple products which tend to do a similar type function. But if you look at the under the hood, there are specific use cases these applications or these components are built within Azure itself. For example, we have Traffic Manager. If you think about Traffic Manager, you can call it's basically a DNS-based load balancer across global regions. So, for example, you might be having sites in, if you type www.microsoft.com, right? Depending on your location, it will the traffic will reach to the nearest location, which is close to the consumer or user. Okay. And again, Microsoft.com has got multiple instances across the world. As a consumer, you don't even know where you landed in. That's the use case from a global perspective or much more broader regional perspective. When you think about application gateway purpose is a single region. So, for example, in Azure, today if you host an application gateway, you might host in Canada Central or Canada East. So, in this scenario, depending on your location, it's going to be available only in that region. And if you need any failover in the capability, you might need to extend your application. You have another application gateway on a second region. Then we can do some domain mapping for the traffic to go through. And we also one more fantastic solution, which is called the Azure Front Door. So the Azure Front Door, it's also a global load balancer, very similar to the Traffic Manager, but it does an SSL offloading. So I'll briefly touch base on why you need SSL offloading. So traditionally, when you host a website, you always get to see an SSL certificate on that particular website, right? You can always see on the left-hand side, there is a lock and key, right? So most of the time what happens is when you have SSL, the entire traffic is totally encrypted. So which means one of the function of the application code load balancer is when the traffic hits with the certificate hits your web application gateway, what happens usually is we will decrypt the message, and then we re-encrypt it back for our security purposes. Basically, if you take that's why one of the difference I find in the load balance, the traditional Azure load balancer is it doesn't do that SSL offloading, and because the purpose of the application load balancer is pretty much internal facing. On the application gateway perspective, because you're exposing your service to an external third party or public websites, SSL traffic SSL is enabled by default most of the time. And when the traffic comes in, if you want to do some routing and things like that, you need to decrypt the traffic. So at the application gateway perspective, the traffic could be decrypted using the SSL offloading mechanism, and then it will taken back to your backend systems depending on the request there. So if you think about when you're designing this is very important when you're designing application perspective, right? So you need to know the type of components you need to place based on your workloads, based on the requirements, and based on the type of application you're building through. In summary, we call it as an application delivery controller. If you Google or Bing ADC, it's a very widely used term. Citrix, there are other companies do very similar ones. So Azure, we call its application gateway is a regional ADC as a service. It's one key factor about application gateway is highly available and scalable. Because it's based as a service, the scalability is baked into the core platform itself, which means based on the workload, based on the request, application gateway can scale out and scale up as necessary. It also does a couple of key, how does it do load balancing? It does URL path. So for example, if you type www.something.com/ say, let's say you're running a car selling site, right? Like a carsales.com or something like that. And then you want to, based on the type of URL the user's typing, you want to redirect that user to an appropriate page. For example, if somebody types www.carsales.com/Toyota, you want them to take them to the Toyota page where the Toyota information is available. If somebody types in www.carsales.com/Mitsubishi, you want to take them to the right one. So the URL routing path is also based on it. And also sometimes, it also does host-based routing, round robin, as the name says. It can basically randomly send the request to any available server. It also does affinity, session affinity, and also redirection. From a security aspects of it, there are a couple of key aspects of the application gateways. It also provides a web application firewall. Traditionally, the web application firewall would be done through a specialized device on the Azure load balancer, on the application gateway. The gateway itself offers both the WAF, the SSL offload, SSL re-encryption, SSL policy as a single service, which also makes your from your application, if you want to build application which supports that needs all these type of support, as a single service versus deploying multiple services. It also, one key fact about application gateway is you can use it. You can make an application gateway as an internal facing as well as external facing. So basically, bottom line is some customers tend to use this as internal facing application. For example, if you have internal HR websites, as an example, right? You have internal, say, financial websites and things like that. You definitely can use application gateway, and also it can also do the both. For example, you need an internal facing endpoint and external facing endpoint. You can also do that as well. Backends, as we spoke, you can have virtual machine scale sets. You can also Azure Kubernetes service, cloud service. It doesn't matter on-premise. It doesn't matter, as long as there's an endpoint, we can do that. I'll quickly show you a simple, when I finish the sessions, I'll walk you through an application gateway, deploy it, and then walk you through how the configuration is. See, other thing is diagnostics, right? So one thing you have to understand in the cloud world, because the services are hosted by Microsoft or any cloud vendor, right? One of the fundamental fact from application management perspective or application monitoring perspective, telemetry. We have massive telemetry where It can capture what are the number of requests that's coming in this given second. What are the types of requests that is coming in? Who's accessing this service and from which location they're accessing it. It also does you what is my network throughput. It's got gazillion telemetry in terms of for you to make decisions on it, and also it also helps you in monitoring and also making from a compliance perspective. I'll show you a quick snapshot of how the telemetry looks like. I have a pre-built demo so that you can, after the session, I'm going to show that. So one key understanding about this whole service is this service is basically built to both handle internal and external requests. Predominantly, it's only used for HTTP and HTTPS type requests, and it also the backends can be of any types. I'm going to just give a pause. It's 10:56. There are some questions on the. I think Partha was asking. Navina, I will show a demo of load balancer. I have a sample. I started building a demo. Maybe I can't show you this week. Definitely in the next week or so, I'll definitely show the demo. But I'll show a demo of the application gateway today. Kaushik, yes. When the VM dies, it can be routed to another healthier node because we call as a backend pool. The backend pool is composed of multiple different types of virtual machines. At times, the session affinity, it does work with session affinity because Azure load application gateway does have some session affinity configurations. When you configure it, it can also work that. I'll show that to you.
The question was, is a session persistence? How do you maintain session persistence?
So we don't, there are ways of doing that out of the box. We don't have the default configuration, but we have to do some application configuration to host the session persistence.
Okay, thank you.
And also the one question came is yes, the application gateway works at a subnet level because when you deploy an application gateway, we ask you a dedicated subnet. So it works at a subnet level or not. I mean, VPC is, I think it's from the AWS sense of it, but our application gateway lives within a subnet. And also on this section, I want to quickly touch base on a couple of things. It also supports a static virtual IP, which means the IP doesn't change. For a number of companies, this is a very key requirement in terms of having a fixed IP address. And also one of the key integrations we have within Key Vault is we integrate that with Azure Key Vault. If you notice in the past, sometimes customers buy the SSL certificates and then it will expire, without, and then all of a sudden the website is totally not reachable. So in that scenario, that's not a very ideal scenario for enterprises. If you're having large websites, I've seen, including companies like Microsoft in the past, there'll be one certificate which never got renewed, and all of a sudden the service would be going down. So integrating with Key Vault is one of the must-haves where auto renewals can be managed using the Key Vault. And because if you see Azure AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service is one of the widely available used Kubernetes service. One of the aspects of the AKS is ability to get the traffic from external, I would say, outside of the perimeter where the AKS deployed. Let's say if you're hosting a web application and you have a lot of microservices that host on AKS, application gateway can be used as an Ingress controller to get the Ingress traffic from the public endpoint into under the hood containers. So that's also available. And we have made a lot of improvements in the past, in the last few months. So one of the challenges when the application gateway was deployed or was released, the provisioning time would be huge. It'd be taking like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So because it was a lot of the application gateway components were we're using an older type of virtual machines, and Azure, as Azure grew, we got new types of virtual machines. So now it will take you about 5 to 6 minutes to deploy the application gateway. And also connections, one of the challenges previously we had the number of connections application gateway can handle it. So we increased the connection threshold to 50,000. And also at this point in time, it can handle up to 250,000 HTTP requests per second. It's a massively scalable service. So
yeah, question. This is Partha again.
Yes.
If you're going to use that as the application gateway as an Ingress controller, it's going to be very, very busy. There'll be a lot of, inter-container calls will keep on coming into the application gateway. Are you not overloading it?
So this is why I would use the Ingress control only for external traffic, but internal, so I have a separate components for managing the other traffic as well. You're right, but the reason we introduced the application gateway is for external facing, but internal facing you can keep the traffic away. So you usually have the split pod personality where you can split them into two types of traffic. So anything only external coming through my application gateway connecting to the pods, but any internal traffic I'll use Nginx or something internal as well. Yeah, right. I think the question is correct, but we have our architecture patterns to split them across. But having said that, within the containers, we also might use Istio type service mesh things to for traffic management as well. But yeah, we would not use this application gateway for all the things in there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pada, for the question. Really appreciate it. So again, I was talking about integration with the Key Vault. Again, this Key Vault service is very key. I think one of the key mentions is it posts every 4 hours to make sure to enable automatic certificate renewal. If you update a certificate within the next 4 hours, it's going to refresh itself, and you can always do a manual override. This was one of the gaps for the number of, I think, when the Azure application gateway was introduced, but now we have this feature natively available as well. One thing you can always start to see is it's called the just on the slide, if you see the top portion, it's called the user managed identity. So all the Azure identity goes through Azure AD, and one of the feature set is called managed identity. Maybe I'll cover it on one of the future sections. What that gives you is it also removes the need to create usernames and password for managing Azure resources. It's basically out of the box. We provide a feature where Azure AD is natively integrated with services like Key Vault or Application Gateway, which means one less dependency or one less activity for administrators or customers to do in terms of managing user credentials for native services, and also removes the need to keep separate username and password, and it also reduces the surface area of attack significantly there. So that's an interesting topic on its own, but in one key takeaway is the certificate management for application gateway can be done through the Key Vault. But it's not a must-have, but it's good to have feature. You can use it as you need by. One other feature you always see is manipulation of the request header response. So usually what happens is when a request comes in, if you think about a request, think about it as like it's a message, right? The message would have a lot of information about the request coming in. So most of the times what customers would do is, or application developers would do is, they'll read what's in the available information. So, and also they will extract and redirect based on the request header coming in. One of the features which we also had is we can, let's say a message comes in with a request, I want to go to this particular product page as an example. So what we can actually do is we can get the message from the request and manipulate the message. Okay, this product page is available on this particular server, or this application needs to be having the payment processing. You can do manipulations on it. That's one of the must-have features because you're dealing with HTTP and HTTPS traffic. This feature is a must-have. We used it So maybe I'll try and show you an example in the coming weeks where how to manipulate this to address your business requirement as well. I think as Partha was asking there, so we started introducing application gateway as one. If you have any external facing pods, that helps you to application gateway can be the Ingress controller, but also other thing is if you think about, you shouldn't be using the application gateway for all the types of Ingress because AKS is extremely chatty. So depending on your application architecture, you can always split your external facing application requests for coming through the external facing websites to the application gateway. All the internal requests can be processed using the internal mechanisms like Istio. Also, another thing is API management, API gateways, or we have a product called API management. API management can also be one more layer of managing requests. These are deeper topics, but as you go along, just for at this point in time, one feedback you can take is application gateway can be used with AKS for Ingress controller. If you Google Ingress controller and AKS, there's a whole bunch of topics. There are companies like Console from HashiCorp, and also there are products like Istio. There are Linkerd. There are a lot of things that are used for Ingress controller, but just from your understanding perspective, AKS will work with application gateway from Ingress control management. Wildcards are very key. For example, when you buy a certificate today, you can buy with a wildcard pattern. Wildcard basically means, as name says, asterisk.contest.com, or like depending on how it could be something, right? Because it's not always. For example, if you're a product company, if you are launching a lot of new products every single time, but all your products are going to live within contest.com/something. Product name, right? It's impossible to know upfront what are the different types of product being launched. That's why wildcard certificates are used. It's in managed preview now. The long story short is application gateway is supporting wildcards as well. I think I was talking to you guys earlier. One fundamental fact on Azure is telemetry. Telemetry is extremely important, because without understanding telemetry, you don't have any, it's basically a black box, right? Application gateway, when you deploy it, everything sits under the cover. You just don't know what's happening. But in order for you to know what's happening, you need to tap into all the telemetry. We have diagnostic log, we have matrices. So these, I will show you a screenshot. I'll show you a live system where I have a couple of telemetry configured. Long story short, you have telemetry out of the box available for you to manage and manipulate, and for also understand what's going on. Pardon me. So we have graphs, which means the telemetry is available through graphs, graphical view. When you go to the application gateway dashboard, you can see telemetry displayed in graphical form. And also another thing you can always do is you can export these graphs into your own systems, like other tools like Grafana. You can use Power BI. We can use Datadog. Doesn't matter. These metrics that you see within the application gateway are available through a service called Azure Monitor. Azure Monitor is basically a RESTful service which you can consume to showcase telemetry across the other systems. Again, as we go along, what we also starting to build is we have a feature within Azure called Azure Monitor Insights. So I just want to focus on the Monitor Insights part of it. So when you build a cloud-based system, right, especially an application on the cloud, the application is composed of multiple different components. If you build a 3-tier application, your front-end layer can be an application gateway. The application gateway would get the request, and you might be having your database service. You might be having your integration services, and these services you might want to expose them through an API endpoint. as a best practice, you should never talk to a database directly. You should always an API endpoint. So in that scenario, if you think about the application, we spoke about 3 or at least 5 components, including the API management layer, right? So if you want to know what's happening across all these systems in a single view, that's where the application insights, application monitor insights comes into play. It's about distribution transaction logs. So what happens is in this day and age, for example, if you're building a service, a Kubernetes service on the back end, if the service fails, immediately you might not know the service has failed, but as a domino effect, you might see a particular icon on your website doesn't really properly appear, right? For example, you're buying a product, all of a sudden you're distributing your icons for the particular product from one of the microservices. In that case, if you want to trace out why the particular icon doesn't work, you need to have a very deeper insight. So there are products like a lot of APM products, which helps you do that. In Azure, we have API management. But on top of that, if you want to know what's happening at a glance, you can use Azure Monitor Insights that can give you full end-to-end scale. As you can see on this graph here, if you see that there is a whole bunch of things which you can see that will basically help you to build a root cause analysis, understand what's going on. I'm going to pass. I think last time we spoke about giving 3 or 4 minutes break in the middle of the session. We are at 11:12. Before I go into the WAF, I just want to give you guys a 5 minutes break. When you come back, I will finish my slide decks, and then I'll go to my Azure portal, and then I'll walk you through a deployment of my application gateway, and then I walk you through how the configuration is done, and also show you a very quick brief demo. It's not a huge demo. I will have my WAF enabled on the application gateway, and then you can just see a hello website. That's it. So I will give you guys 3 or 4 minutes break. We will catch back within maybe 11:15 or 11:16.
Thank you, Krishna. Team, if you get a chance while in the break or coming back from the break before Krishna's session, if you're not registered, please register for our next events. And Adarsh, are you still there? Let me check.
Yep, I'm still here.
Adarsh, there was some requests with respect to the certifications.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Help the team around that would be
sure.
Great.
So question answered. So are you guys looking for, and I think I forget the name of the gentleman who had reached out, Ahmed, if I remember correctly, he had requested for AZ 900 certification vouchers, and I had got back to him and requested, hey, it's better if at all we do it through the company. So the information that I need is, right now the way certification vouchers work is we give it to the company and the company gives it out to their employees. That's the way we work it out. But I'm still exploring other alternatives of giving it through this community itself. So are there anyone on this call today who are looking for certification vouchers? And if you're looking sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking for some, and yeah, I was just waiting for this course to get over and then ask for something, because I believe either Kader or somebody else, Shad maybe, mentioned that they do have vouchers that they could send us, but they expire sometime in June, I guess.
That's right. So are you guys looking only for AZ 900, which is the Azure fundamentals, or are you looking for something more like the next level ones also?
Yeah, well, the first thing to get that is the AZ 900, and then we go further.
Okay, so I
didn't see anything on AKS, actually. I didn't see any certifications on AKS yet, as of yet.
That's right. So a lot of the AKS is covered in the AZ 400, which is the DevOps part of things. But right now we do not have any AKS focus certifications. So it'll be included in DevOps containers and all of those. It's included there. But let me get back to you about AZ 900. I'm pretty sure I can get few certification vouchers. So right now I see there are requests from 3 people or 2 people, but let me figure this out and get back to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So Adarsh, you mentioned through the companies, right? So you can consider Testoper also as a company, non-profit company, right?
No,
Only
Testoper
the
is
for-profit companies Microsoft provides, is
the
it?
way it works is it's about, so we have our own managed list without getting into the minutia of it, right? So whichever companies have signed up for some services on Azure, we give it to them to help their employees skill up so that they can do it. That's how it works. So if at all Testoper, you come in and tell me that you will be signing a deal with Microsoft for $5,000 a month, then hell yes, we'll definitely make it available to you. Which is not, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm saying I'll figure it out and get back to you.
Let's put it this way. Let me market this. You have a community here which is really interested and want to get onto the Azure platform and really do work with it. So you have ambassadors who are going out and going to sell Azure for you.
Yes.
So Partha, what do
Yeah.
you do, man? I'm looking actually for some marketing person who can get some sponsorship for us. Would you be interested to join us?
No, I'm a DevOps person. I'm not a
You know what?
marketing person.
You know this is what I want. You know what? I want to ask Partha to do another session with me because all the questions you're asking are very valid. So maybe we should you should join Partha. You should join the test hopper to work with us. I like your questions basically. They're really very good questions.
And Partha, just to answer you, I am actually I'm a part of the marketing team in cloud, and the words you used is music to my ears, because this is exactly the reason why we partnered with Testoper to make sure that people get more aware of what Microsoft technology is all about and things like that. So what you said is basically music to my ears, and I'm trying my best to make sure it happens. So the first step was to include someone like Krishna to come and do these sessions. Second step is to get more funding and sponsorship to support the community growth. So we are working towards it.
Yeah, if you look at this community, apart from me, I'm a gray-haired guy. Everybody is somewhere in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a young and dynamic group who can really do some good work.
You bet. Yeah, we are working hard. So give us some time. We'll definitely have some good, interesting answers for you, as well as the community.
Partha, I'm seriously considering you on marketing, man. You have some skills now.
Sure.
One quick question.
Yes, please.
Is there any help for people who are interested in doing the Azure Architect certification?
Sure, that's AZ 300.
300. Yep, AZ 300.
Yeah. There's a question from Mona, I believe. Mona, please get off mute or ask your question. I see Mona had raised her hand. I don't know whether it was intentional or not.
Yeah. So what we should probably do, right? We should ask the members. We are seeing consistently 30 people are attending, right? Plus or minus 4 or 5. So obviously, they're learning stuff, and for some it may be new, but they're interested to learn and stuff like that. So we should really ask the community members if they wanted to take some certifications and what certifications you want to take and when, right? And if they are able to provide that information to us through the community chat, then what we can do is we can consolidate them, and then we can come back to you and see how you can help us on that. If not for everyone, at least what we can do is we can based on the attendance or something, we can pick the top 3 or whatever based on how much that you can provide and hand it over to them, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And we are also planning others, right? So from the Testoper, once the completion of this course from Krishna from Testoper, we wanted to give them a certification that you attended, cloud fundamentals. It's not like Microsoft Azure, but cloud fundamentals kind of thing. We also wanted to give it out, right? That could also be a good reference for them.
Sure.
Okay, so
floor to you, Krishna. So we were just making use of the time in between to kind of.
Okay. So nothing is. You're still seeing my screens, right?
Yeah, Azure WAF.
Okay, so you know what? I will keep it. I just want to show at least a few minutes of my configuration application gateway. So I'll quickly skip through this one, right? If you think about in a nutshell, what we mean by for the people that is maybe starting it out, if you think about application gateway, so these are basically think about it as a service that protects you from very well known common exploits and vulnerabilities, right? So if you think about on the web, there are tons of malicious attacks. You can think about SQL injection. You might heard about SQL injection, cross-site scripting attacks. There are hundreds of vulnerability which pops out every single day. So the WAF gives you that protection layer. One advantage of WAF, at least on Microsoft side of things, is since it's a platform as a service, and traditional enterprises tend to keep them updated manually or semi-automatically or fully automated, depends on where they are on that particular journey in the exposing the service to the external world. Because the managed service, a lot of the rule sets are basically within the WAF is updated automatically. If somebody's taking notes, there's a key concept called our Azure application gateway is based on it's called core rule sets. So basically these core rule sets basically means, it's going to put it very bluntly, it's going to give you a couple of I would say predefined rules that particular service will be certified. Think about this as a certification, right? The certification talks about there are 3.1, 3.0, and maybe 2.9. I'm not right on the, maybe I'm missing numbers here and there. So this rule sets are basically based on it's called I call them OWASP, basically Open Web Application Security Project. So what the purpose of the OWASP is basically, this is like think about this is like a consortium of I would say of like-minded professionals or people or companies. They tend to publish the rule sets, and Azure as of today is the application gateway is supporting CRS 3.1, 3.0, and 2.29. I'll give those links in the chat window so you can do some homework on it. So basically, this is certified to CRS certain versions of it. What that gives you is it will if you take the rule set, it's going to have a bunch of things that particular product has to support, and Azure application gateway does that as well. One additional feature, if you think about Microsoft, we are one of the largest companies in the world in terms of threat detection and intelligence as well. A lot of the rule sets, a lot of the data points we collect from the Azure application gateway also connects with Microsoft Threat Intelligence. For example, bots, right? There are gazillion million bots that are out there. So what if your website is being constantly being hammered on by a bot? What do you do that? For example, recently I read about an article about a specific version of a new shoe from a certain brand company was released. Immediately, there are a million bots where like people would just launch a million plus bots so that they can buy the product and sell it on eBay at higher cost, right? So which means those sort of things those malicious traffic has to be stopped. So that's why I see bots. Sometimes bots also used to cripple your networks, cripple your external facing properties. So it's also use that as well. And also we started enhancing geofiltering, right? Especially if you are if a Canadian customer, let's say if you are like say a bank or a retailer, or somebody you're predominantly focused only on Canada, you don't need to get traffic from say from other countries at all, right? Then you can basically geofilter based on the traffic, so that your web application, your web properties are getting only the authorized traffic flow you're given there. So just I went a little bit more deeper, but that's the whole point of WAF is basically the cloud native web application firewall that is available through the application gateway mechanism. I'm not sure why my clicker is not working. Just 1 second. Okay. I think we covered on that. So we're just showing how to configure the WAF policies. Also talking to you guys about the geofiltering, which you can enable as part of the application gateway. Bot protection. Bot protection is a very recently announced feature when we started seeing a lot of attacks happening through bots. So it's also available for customers to protect the assets from the malicious bots. So I think that brings the slide deck to an end. I will share the slide deck to Mickey, but I'm going to go and share my my browser so that we can walk through an application gateway which I created before the session, so that you can see what components are there, how it works, and stuff like that. Just give me a minute while I switch my screens. So in the meantime, feel free to post the questions on anything you have. Adarsha, all the questions is for you, man.
I'm getting to it one by one. But in the meantime, Krishna, and I think there was a question around certification for testers. The certification for testers, I was imagining we don't have any specific certification for testers, but DevOps as a practice is including a whole bunch of testing within it. So I was wondering if that's a best option to get certified for testers.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be Adarsh, because see, this is what we were talking in one of the sessions before. Testers normally they think just they're testing products, right? But they have to realize that the products now is going to be in the cloud, and you have to have a knowledge of cloud to even start thinking of writing one test case, right? When it comes to the application interaction with the infrastructure and so on, right? As long as if it's a pure application, it's a different story. So this is what we were thinking, and we were talking as well. Krishna kind of mentioned this was I forgot kind of mentioning it to you. This was another action to kind of understand from Microsoft point of view for the testers what would be the right certification, not from the testing point of view. Like for the testers, there is something called ISTQB, which is all like purely testing. Not from that point of view. From the Microsoft point of view, testing related to the cloud, what kind of direction that we can give them to become successful in the testing domain is something to think about ourselves, Adarsh.
See, I think to answer the question, so we have AZ400, okay, which is focused on DevOps. So see, I'm just sharing based on my experience, So don't take it as literal sense. So the testing world on today is basically all automation, right? Most of the test cases I've seen that written on through using automation scripts, automation pipelines. So the role is changing towards a DevOps versus independent testers. Maybe you might have few testers here and there. I think what I'm finding is that industry, somebody could correct me. I'm not a very well wide-known expert on that, but the testing as a skill is moving towards it's all becoming DevOps type role than versus individual testing type roles. So which means to answer the question, AZ400 within Azure is the exam that covers DevOps, development processes, application infrastructure, feedback, delivery, integration. Maybe if you are interested, I can send the link into the chat window to have a look at what it is, and also free training courses available within the Azure itself, where you can go and take those. Actually, give it a try, and then see how you're going to feel that. Yeah.
Krishna,
yeah, I think. Sorry, Adarsh. I think Krishna, what you mentioned is right. The testing is not going to go away, right? So you have to.
It will be automated.
Yeah,
it will be fully automated.
Correct. So the tester role and testing is not going to go away. For me, you can say testing and tester role while you're doing the product testing, right? Or even while you're monitoring the network 24/7. What are you doing typically? You're actually testing the network, monitoring it and troubleshooting it, right? It's against the view of looking at the problems end of the day, right? So the testing role as such and the tester designation as such could be used in different ways, as long as whichever way that you use it, you're able to find the problems in the network. Now, having said that, coming to your point, why I agreed that what you said is correct is because of all these advancement in the technology, which we have been talking in Testoper for a long time, a tester just doing testing is not going to work. Like application testing is not going to work. He has to have an in-depth knowledge on cloud to become a best tester in, because every applications, I'm sure, even today, 90, 60, 70% over the next 5 to 6 years, 100% applications are all going to be in the cloud. On-premise is going to go away. I'll tell you a practical example, right? In my company, we had a security attack and we used to have a lot of on-premise application, and we realized that it's not going to work in the longer term. Now we moved everything into a cloud and supported by, in fact, Microsoft, right? So everything is moved into cloud. We don't keep anything on-premise. So if you look at it, all the enterprise is all moving towards cloud as much as possible. Maybe someday we'll keep it into the private cloud. And so these companies are building the products to serve end customers, and these products are also getting deployed there. And so you as a tester, if you wanted to do your job better, you have to know these fundamentals of the cloud. And that's the way I see it, Krishna. And that's one of the reasons I said I agree to your statement. But I may not basically term it as people, testers becoming DevOps, but I would say a tester needs to know DevOps to do a testing job better, right? So which includes automation, DevOps, and all those perspectives. Hope it makes sense.
So, sorry, I would like to add in more from the testing perspective. For the DevOps perspective, basically continuous testing, I'm doing the automation lead. So for the DevOps, in the DevOps, basically we will be continuous integration and continuous deployment, right? Delivery. Yep. Yes. So basically testers role mainly comes into the picture where continuous testing. So where we have to learn within the DevOps, if it is not like Azure DevOps, once if the companies has been adapted, then we can use their own services. But most of the companies, they are trying to still migrate. So at that time, like we are trying to use Jenkins, GitHub, and testing tools, like we are trying to integrate with the once the automation testing is done, the code has to be integrated through Jenkins and create the pipelines in such a way that we can run through the pipelines itself, so that we can save the time and the regression can be happened. So that's how DevOps will come into the picture for the testing role.
Is this Navina? Is this Navina?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. See, there's two components to it, right, Navina? One component is whatever the automation scripts that you're building, you have to have a DevOps pipeline for that, right? So DevOps is the end of the day, for starting from the source code management to the all the way to infrastructure management and deployment management, right? Test management. So this is the cycle of DevOps in the pipeline. So that is more focused when you are trying to build your own scripts and do the same thing as in parallel to developers, what they do to deliver the actual product. I agree. That's one way of looking at it, right? Which requires developers to learn DevOps and all the CI/CD skills and so on. But what I was referring to was using those, you are going to actually test the real product that is also going through the pipeline, that is also getting deployed in cloud, right? So having the knowledge of how the products are getting deployed, how the gateways are configured, how the scalability is configured, all those different things that you're learning through Krishna's is going to make you better in what you're doing. You agree, Navina?
Yes, that's true. Because
exactly.
At a high level, we will get to know from operation perspective, and because DevOps is mainly related to developer, and once they build the code, and from the testing perspective, how we can involve in the high level, how we can coordinate with the development and the operations, how it can be integrated with the tools itself. So if we know ahead of time, like how it can be, because our organization, we are trying to migrate to the cloud as well. So at that time, if we know ahead of time all these concepts, right? So from the testing perspective, what we can input, so we can if we know the concepts, then only we can have some inputs. So I think it's better to know all the concepts on high level too.
Got it. Krishna, sorry to hijack your stuff.
No, that's a good conversation.
It was a good conversation. In fact, I have seen in some of the companies where testers deploy a parallel test cloud environment, right? So when the code is handed over from the developer to the tester, so tester installs the stage and they maintain the complete stage environment and they do testing, and then they hand over it to the operations team, right? So development stage and then operations. So even operations has something like before going to the real life, they have another stage. So in that case, if you see the connection, right? So developer, tester, operations, and then it goes in a cycle. So I have seen companies where Navina, the testers are asked to maintain their own test cloud environment similar to the production. So that in that context, also knowing this is going to help you a lot.
Yeah, this is Partha. Yeah, so testing, if you divide it into two major aspects, functional testing and non-functional testing, you just cannot do non-functional testing without knowing about the cloud. You may do most of your functional testing without knowledge of the cloud and how it functions in the cloud. But non-functional testing, you have to know what the cloud is and how it is deployed on the cloud, and so many aspects of it. So this what we are learning here is absolutely, goes towards that.
Yeah, agree. See, Krishna talked about Kubernetes, right? And I'll tell you, nowadays, a lot of applications are getting deployed in edge. So I was expecting in future, Krishna also is going to cover a little bit on edge support, right? Of Microsoft, what applications, everything is getting deployed in edge, getting deployed in Kubernetes. If you don't know how these things are going to get deployed, how all these different components are going to work together, how can you test? You right, Partha, that context to the same thing that you're saying, right?
Yeah.
If a tester is only worried about, okay, I have to send a request, get a response, see pass or fail in an application testing, like you rightly mentioned, functional testing, that's a different story. That's a different world, right? And I don't believe that world is enough to succeed, moving forward with all these advancements that we are seeing.
Yeah, and if you need to dig down into any issue that you meet, then you need to know everything. You need to know where's the Ingress controller, do you have an API gateway, can I log into the API gateway and see the trace? There are so many things that go to us. So unless there is absolutely no way you can do testing without actually knowing about the cloud and how it's deployed in the cloud. All the technologies that go behind it, you have to have very good understanding of it.
Understood. Nice conversation. Sorry, we stole your thunder, Krishna. So leave you the floor. You want to continue, please continue. Want to continue in next session, I'll leave it to you. Sorry about it.
No, it's good because what I sent a link on the chat window, right? So it talks about, if you just click on that, it talks about the Netflix product testing, right? So that's the author is very good. His name is Ashokan. Vasant Ashokan. He talks about how Netflix does product testing. So because I got to tell you, some of the product cycles are so fast, okay, and they are at a high velocity that you don't have traditional testing practices, are not even possible, even if you have, even if you want to do it. I give a simple example, right? Zoom, they had a challenge on end-to-end encryption was not available. There are a lot of issues, and the capacity was running out. Or if you take the traditional waterfall cycle of testing, building, and then going through all the unit tests, and then going to application tests, if you follow now, the process is not possible, right? The more I see today, I think on the cloud world, the testing, the most of the time I see testing has become like a piece of code, right? The piece of code will be written before even the application testers go and write an application use cases. So one thing I think Partha clearly brought the point where today, because the application, if you use AKS application Azure Kubernetes service, it has got so many components in it. It's got Ingress controller. When you have within Ingress controller, there's a whole bunch of magic goes into it, right? And then when the Ingress control comes in, the pods come into play, and all of us have replica sets. Within the particular containers, there are multiple different states into it. So if you're just traditional testing, application testing or anything doesn't work. So today, what I see the applications we are building today for customers have full end-to-end, including the application testing baked into a piece of code. So most of the time, if you think about any websites today that are running, which is managing any sort of consumer-friendly roads, they all have 99% of automated testing baked into it. Because when things go wrong, you immediately have to fix it, right? You don't have the time, luxury. Most of the time, when a build goes in, there's I think I forgot the name. Somebody was talking about this in a deep manner. I think she was talking about how the DevOps and CI/CD works. So if you are, I think now I see I get somebody that is more knowledgeable on this topic than me. Hopefully in the next couple of sessions to talk a deep dive on it. And obviously there's also, I need to talk about AKS as well in depth. I think I will work with Kadir to bring those experts on it, especially on the testing side, and then see where the future is going. Today on infrastructure deployment, all my testing happens through automation. My team doesn't write a single line of code. When infrastructure gets deployed, everything is validated using a script, and then the script would say, okay, these are healthier things, these are incorrect, and then even the replacement happens through that. So today you might heard of a concept called AI ops. Basically, even the operational aspects of traditional support mechanisms. So today, when an application fails on a certain piece, I don't see human beings doing that notification. Is a system does notification to the extent where a particular component or particular microservices fails, immediately the developer that wrote the piece of code gets the notification, and then you pull the code from the master branch, you'll check into the trunk, whatever you call them in, and then automation goes and kicks. The whole lot of things going into play. I don't want to take this time on this, already 11:40. I'll quickly show the gateway we built.
But what we need to do, right, Krishna? Yeah, please go ahead and show it. What we need to do is maybe in our next Saturday session, right? We should probably spend 10 minutes. I'll try to give some insights around this. I've been into this testing, monitoring, and analytics field for many years. I can give you the overall picture, not the details. What exactly is happening? Most of the time, people get misunderstand from the point of view of testing is all about testing UI, testing API, testing mobile application in the front end. That's how people, and all these certifications that are out there, and they talk about exploratory testing, ISTQB testing, and all those things are related to that. And I'm not saying those are not important. Those are important, right? There's some manual aspects, automation aspects. But when you have to start thinking about the complete life cycle. What is the product life cycle? From where does it start? From the concept all the way to the deployment and goes in a vicious circle. In the complete vicious circle, how me as a tester, right? To me, even DevOps is a kind of a testing. It happens every phase of this life cycle. And what is that I need to know to become the best in what I do? So this is something that we need to really talk about it, Krishna. Maybe in our next session.
Okay. So I think one other thing also I'll share the code where I'm building these use cases. So one other question was how to show a simple demo of the application gateway. I'll quickly go through the components that I have on this particular deployment. As you can see, this is my application gateway. The application gateway has got a couple of components inside it. So one is a public IP address, which is attached to my application gateway for it to expose itself to the public internet. The second one I want to talk about is I have a couple of virtual machines. So these virtual machines are the worker node. I put it very simply. These are like I would say the nodes that will get the traffic from the application gateway and process that request. Whatever it could be a website. In this case, I would hosted an Nginx Node.js simple application. Nothing fancy, very simple, type application. And also I created a virtual machine scale sets. As I was talking on my first slide deck, where an application gateway can route traffic to different types of services. It can be virtual machine scale sets, can be a virtual machine, or it can be AKS. It doesn't matter. So that's all it is. And also I have a virtual network where this particular service is going to reside. So one other question on the window was, hey, do I need a VNet or a subnet? In this scenario, Azure application gateway needs a subnet, but for my example, I created a virtual network, so it doesn't matter. So in this case, I just want to showcase that. So I'll quickly go into, and obviously the NIC cards. So basically the idea of the NIC cards are basically to connect that to the application gateway incoming traffic. As with all, we call them, maybe I repeat myself on a keyword called first-party services, which means first-party services means Microsoft builds and manages it. If you take the first party service, there are some characteristics which will always show. First is it will have activity logs. Activity logs are basically every single type of CRUD, create, update, and delete. Not CRUD, create, update, and delete. So basically, you can see, whenever I create, it gives you a full logs. It also gives you any updates I do is constantly captured. This is your audit trail logs. Okay. Access control means role-based access control. Every single Azure first class object or first party applications will all have a proper role-based access control. So that you can assign right type of privileges for teams or people that can manage this service. Again, it's a part of the security. So tags are must have when it comes to cost management, from security and things like that. So tags are very key as well. Diagnostics also helps you. If you see, right, it's going to get you pre-built troubleshooting tips. Again, previously I was saying these are of diagnostics people used to do, but now Azure is giving that out of the box. If you click on that, it's going to give me what is the health of the system up to this minute. So this is again a change in dynamics of these service work. Let's go into configuration. You can have scale units, which means you can scale up and scale down, or you can do manual. Depending on it, you can play with it. This is where the main NSG, which is security aspects of it. We also can, it's called network security groups, where you can control the incoming and outgoing traffic. Let me go to the backend pools. Backend pools are the ones where you can say, you know what, all my traffic when this particular service comes in has to be processed by this VM scale set and these two machines. We can go on and we can go as much as you want on this, deeper on this particular application one. I also spoke about telemetry, right? We give you massive amount of telemetry. This is just a sample. We can go deeper as much as you want. We also have matrices, which are also one more layer of matrices which I talked about. These are the different matrices that are available today for you to capture. Total number of requests you want to process. We also spoke about insights. The backend health. Backend health are basically how your services that are residing on your which is managed, which are basically processing the service are available. So okay. Having said all those, I can see two instances are unhealthy because the morning I was playing with it, and I think I switched them off. So let me go and then show you guys what's happening here. Let me show to the configuration. That is my configuration. So these are 4 machines. What I'll do is I'll go and type in my service. So this is my application gateway. Hopefully it should, when I type in the IP address URL, it's going to go on LAN. Yeah. So as you can see, my first request is processed by a VM scale sets. Nothing fancy here. We can always make it more dynamic and things like that. Maybe one of my activity is to showcase your load balancer and application gateway. So with some sort of a real type application there. But at this point in time, I'll send you the link where you can go and play with the scripts and also to see what other things we can do with the application gateway there. So next week I'll go into the other topic I spoke about. It's already 11:49. I'm 4 minutes over. If you need any help on any of those things, feel free to send it via LinkedIn or send it via test offer. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. As always, if you find this useful, let me know. If if you need to improve something, more than happy to listen to you guys. But thanks for all the questions. So it makes more interesting into understanding.
Thanks, Krishna. So I just want to ask the team here. So how many of you in this are purely DevOps and mix of DevOps and testing and testing only? Right? So how many of you? It's very difficult to. It's not such a question to be asked in the virtual meeting, but yeah, unmute it and let me know.
Actually, in Microsoft, you can put a voting thing, man. You can create a vote.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we
I think
can-
we need to do that next time. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we need to understand, because this is the topic that was brought up today was really interesting topic, and you know, we have lots of experts, and we need to do some kind of you know, we need to also learn from the experts in this call, right?
Yes,
Rather than
yes.
we speaking, right, Krishna, and share, like Navena was a good thought process she shared, and things like that, right, Partha and so on.
So Kader, I am a pure tester, so functional and automation. That's
Awesome,
my
awesome.
skill. So
Awesome. Let's do that. You know, maybe Krishna, we should allocate maybe 10-15 minutes in our next session.
So what I want to do is, you know what? So why don't we have 1 or 2 sessions focused on people that are on the call to showcase, like maybe do a presentation. You know, Partha can do one, Navina can do. I also, the other gentleman spoke. Right? Maybe we should just allocate some time for them to showcase their viewpoint, their ideas as well. You know, on this forum will be really good.
Yeah.
That way we can learn from each other, right? Because learning is constant. So maybe you know what, they have something different perspective. I really want to hear from them as well.
Okay, let's do this, right, Krishna? Let's start with because this session is most applicable for that. I wanted to really do this. Next session on our Saturday, first 15 minutes. Let's have start with people sharing their stuff. You know what everyone thinks the testing is all about. Maybe we do some kind of a workshop. I'm not sure, should we schedule a separate meeting, or we should do it with in this meeting?
I think we'll do in this meeting, because there are a lot of people on this one. They know what it is. There's a lot of community on this one. Let's do that, and then that will help us to as well, right? Maybe they want to share something which we don't know. Maybe we should do that next week.
Yeah, so let's do it like next week. Let's do it like an open workshop where everyone is going to talk, right? Rather than we presenting. Let's do one session like that, and then see what happens, if it makes sense, right? And try to connect all these dots. We have been speaking for a while, so let's have the attendees speak, and let us learn from them. Let's do the dedicated workshop next week. So you don't have to prepare anything to present. That's what I'm saying, right? So let's discuss and brainstorm together. Maybe we need everyone attending today to join and help us on that, please.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We are 5 minutes or 10 minutes over. Sorry about that, but as always, very good session. And looking forward to sharing my knowledge as well as listening. Looking for more. Happy to listen from you guys as well. Thank you, guys. Have a nice week ahead. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Krishna.